It was November 18th, 2021. I was at a time in my life when exploring condemned or abandoned buildings was a monthly hobby. I like to scout for things that weren't too far away on sites like Reddit or Urbex. There was an office building about 2 hours away that I'd had my eyes on for months now. I typically tried to find things that were closer, which is why I'd been putting it off for a while, but seeing the pictures made me feel a need to see it myself. It had 12 stories and, according to some users, a basement, but the only pictures I could find were at the outside and one of a long hallway that looked like it stretched across the entire building. About a week before, I got my coworker to cover my shift on the 18th and showed her the pictures of the building. She asked me if I was going to record it, and I remembered my old GoPro that was somewhere in my closet. 2 days before the drive, I dug it out of the closet and hooked it up to my shitty laptop. The videos were mostly me on biking trails from around 2018. There was one where I was driving around during a thunderstorm and threw on the camera just to have a video of it. One of them, though, seemed like it wasn't loading. The preview showed a black screen, and I clicked it. The video sounded like an old man with a higher voice. He was telling a story, and I was there giving the occasional feedback. It was only a couple of minutes long. He was going on about how he used to work in an office building. He would work extra hours because he wanted to be promoted, and eventually, he landed at the top floor with a view of the entire town. He had worked for years unbothered, but when he reached around 65, he tripped on something and broke his ankle. His doctors told him to stay off it, and he had more than enough to retire, so he decided that it was time. On the 18th, I packed up everything and started on the drive. It was rainy, and I decided to just listen to the storm rather than put on any music. Once I was there, I could pretty much see the building from the other side of town. It towered over everything else in the area, and I had to wonder how it was decided that they should place it here. It was barely a town with maybe 300 people to its name. I stopped at the nearby gas station to fill up my tank. The cashier was dressed alternatively, and I thought about asking if they had explored any buildings in the area, but for some reason I chickened out. It was a short walk from the public park to the building, so I got my GoPro and recorded as I approached the building. I talked about how, from what people had said online, the building was abandoned in 1995 after the parent company realized how much money they had lost on it. I entered the first floor and was immediately met with the wide open hallway from the picture I had seen online, which I guess means that the person who uploaded it had taken one picture after entering and either left or put their phone away. Moving forward from the entrance, there was a big open space on either side full of empty cubicles. There must have been at least 70 cubicles on the first floor alone. I found the steps leading to the basement and descended. The natural sunlight seeping in on the first floor wasn't present down there. I flicked on my flashlight and revealed an expansive single room. There weren't really any walls, just pillars to support the weight of the entire building. It looked more like a room for an art gallery than for an office. There was one spot of light in the middle that I could only make out when I turned my flashlight off. I made my way towards it through the dark. As I was approaching, I heard a loud slam and almost jumped out of my skin. Before I could run, though, I saw what had made the sound. There was a slab of concrete on the ground that had fallen in the area that was emitting the light. I got closer and looked up to find the source. There was a shaft that looked like it stretched all the way to the top. It looked way too big for an elevator. I picked up the slab of concrete and decided that it probably just came from a wall or something. I exited the basement with a little more caution and proceeded up the stairs. I went from floor to floor, getting the gist that they were all basically the same. It did get noticeably nicer on floor 11. The rooms were smaller rather than a mostly open area. I assumed that this was where some of the boss's offices were. There would have definitely been at least a few managers if these cubicles were really full. Getting to the top, it was definitely the nicest of the bunch. There was a conference room and another nice one-person office. On the walls there were trophies and certificates, although upon closer inspection, one of the certificates was misspelled, and in the desk there were more under different names. I walked out to the opposite end of the building to the hallway that was on every floor. I had skipped most of them because I wanted to see the view from this top one. I saw the whole town below. The people on the ground were just close enough to make out, walking from work to home, home to work, work to the store. I imagined that it would have been nice to work up there at the top. From one of the cubicles further down the hall, I thought I saw movement. I stared hard at the corridor, trying to make out if there was anything hiding. It was too dark to really see details. From a cubicle looked a tall figure peeking above the wall. The figure moved out into the hallway and started getting bigger. I didn't waste any time sprinting for the stairs. The figure was freakishly fast. I could hear things falling behind me as I approached the stairs. I knew I wasn't going to make it, so I made a decision. I ran to a different area near the middle of the building. I could hear the steps behind me all the while. They got to the point that they were just a couple yards behind as I got to my destination. I almost fell down the shaft. I threw myself at the floor and clawed for anything to grab onto. My hand connected with an ankle with unusually loose skin, and I pulled with everything I had. I'll never forget the sound that they produced when they fell. It was a sound of hatred and fear and something else all at once. I heard a loud slam. I laid up there for a while, letting my feet dangle over the edge. I thought about going back down to the basement, but that isn't what I did. I stood up and headed down the stairs as quiet as I could. When I saw I was on the first floor, something kicked in, and I sprinted for the open doors. I didn't look behind me, and I don't think I heard anything, but I don't know. It was another silent car drive home. The rain kept me company. I didn't really think about anything in particular. I just drove until I was there. Once I did get back, I walked upstairs and fell into bed. I barely got the blanket over me before falling asleep. The next morning, I hooked the GoPro back up to my shitty laptop. The video was there. It was all there. I went to the video and I saw them. My heart was racing again. I slammed the laptop shut halfway through that fucking noise. I decided to just throw it out because I'm not opening it when I know what I'll hear if I do.